So we got more on the Kavanaugh saga today. It's being reported by the Wall Street Journal that Christine Blasey Ford's friend, Leland Keyser, who was her friend that she named that was a witness that was at this party. Now, Keyser has said all along, she said in a written statement weeks ago under penalty of felony, I don't recall any such party. In fact, I don't recall ever hanging out with Brett Kavanaugh at all or being at a party with him, with or without Dr. Ford. It's now being alleged from Keyser, supposedly, from her FBI interview that she just got interviewed again by the FBI in this supplemental background investigation, that she told the FBI that Dr. Ford's other friend, a woman by the name of Monica McLean, who used to work for the FBI and is now helping Ford out, signing statements saying that Ford's trustworthy and seems to be integral in helping Ford come forward in her allegations. Apparently, this Monica McLean, Keyser is saying, called her after her initial letter under penalty of felony and basically pressured her to change her story because she said, hey, they're using your statement to disprove Ford's account. This is utterly devastating if it's true, because this shows that Ford's people are out there trying to get people to basically lie to prove Ford's allegations, which is a huge, huge hit on their credibility. If this story was true, you wouldn't need to be calling people asking them to change stories. They gave this, and what's really important is, look, you can understand someone like Mark Judge. Mark Judge was the person that is alleged to have assaulted Dr. Ford with Kavanaugh. So you could see why he would say, nah, that party never happened. I never did anything like that. That makes sense because he's being accused. He's friends with Kavanaugh. The other witnesses are supposedly friends with Kavanaugh as well. But Keyser is actually Ford's lifelong friend. So what incentive would she have to, one, lie if she knew about this party? Now, the answer to that was, well, maybe she just forgot because it was an innocuous party to her. Okay, fair enough, even if we accept that. But then second, make up a lie saying, yeah, and Ford's friend McLean is calling me, pressuring me to change my story. Why would she do that? She's Ford's friend. The only reason she would do that is if it was the truth. And so, again, it's not 100% proven that this is the truth, and we'd have to wait to see. Hopefully we get to see some of these FBI statements, the documents the FBI had, their 302s. But that's devastating if true. And I don't see why Keyser would lie about this. And it's also going to be interesting because McLean, who is basically, Ford has two friends that have been talked about in this whole saga. There's Keyser, who I just talked about, and it's the one saying she was pressured. And then there's Monica McLean. Monica McLean's name first comes up the other day here because Dr. Ford's ex-boyfriend testified or wrote a letter saying that he dated her for 6 years, and among other things that kind of poked holes in her story, such as she flew in planes all the time, didn't seem to have claustrophobia, never mentioned a sexual assault or Brett Kavanaugh's name. He also says that she specifically lied in her testimony because she coached her friend that she lived with in a possible polygraph that she had coming up. And if you remember, Dr. Ford said, and I did a video on this, but Dr. Ford said, no, I never coached or gave anyone tips on a polygraph. So if this ex-boyfriend's account's true, that proves that she lied and perjured herself. The friend that she lived with was a woman by the name of Monica McLean, the same woman that supposedly is pressuring Keyser to change her story. Monica McLean was then, the story adds up in the sense that she did then end up working for the FBI, applied for a job for the FBI, got it. Now, she's came out and said, no, Dr. Ford or no one else has ever coached me for a polygraph that I have taken. But how can we trust this woman's credibility if she's then contacting witnesses saying, please change your statement to help Dr. Ford? Like, it significantly impairs her credibility as well. And McLean has an attorney now who came out, which that's odd, right? Like, now that, I mean, I guess everyone's going to have attorneys in this situation, but her attorney comes out and is like, oh, no, McLean never pressured anyone to change her story. That's a lie. But again, why would Keyser lie about this? She's Ford's friend. She seemingly has no incentive to lie. Now, I'm not saying there is a slight chance, I guess, that she lied. And there's also a chance that what we're being reported from the Wall Street Journal isn't true. But if this story is true, and Keyser did say that, it's absolutely devastating for the two reasons I said. One, it shows that Ford's story is not that credible if she has to have people going out there asking the people she named as witnesses that are her friend to change their story to help her story. That shows that her story's flimsy and that she's willing, at least her people are willing, to lie to get this story put forth. And second, it shows that her friend McLean's statement that she was never coached by Dr. Ford for a polygraph is also suspect, because if McLean's the person asking people to lie or change their story, that shows that we can't take her word at face value either. So the whole thing's just a mess. You ought to be look at all the holes, like these series of videos I did, or you could go elsewhere and look at all the holes. The mainstream media isn't reporting this, right? It's just another allegation after another allegation, right? They're not going to interested in looking at Ford's story and seeing the inconsistencies or when she's changed her story, or stories like this where she supposedly coached her friend at a polygraph, or now that her friend was asking the witness Keyser to change her testimony. You're not going to see most of this on the mainstream media because they have a narrative to push. They're a Democratic mouthpiece. And if you question Dr. Ford's story to them, then you're a victim-blaming monster, right? But are you starting to see why this believe her, always believe victims, why this is dangerous, right? As a victim, here's another thing, like Grassley's constantly asking, can you hand over your therapy notes that supposedly prove that you were talking about this in 2012? Can you hand over the polygraph, the tapes from the polygraph that the reason both these are important is Dr. Ford cites both of these things as evidence is to give her story veracity, right? Like, oh, I'm telling the truth, and here's how you know. One, I have therapy notes in 2012 that show I was talking about this. Second, I took a polygraph that says I'm telling the truth. Oh, okay, can we see that evidence? No, you can't. Now, what incentive would she have to hide that? Her lawyers are saying, we'll provide that evidence after the FBI talks to us. In other words, we'll provide that evidence after there's a delay. Does she have something to say that's different to what she testified in front of the committee? Because that was under penalty of perjury. So if she's now changing her story, wants to talk to the FBI to change her story based from what she said in the committee, that's perjury, which would further hamper her story. So she already said her piece. She told her story, right? What more is there to say? All this is she's saying, no, I won't hand over the evidence until there's another delay. That's what she's saying. Now, if you were really the victim of this and you had evidence that helped buttress your story, wouldn't that be the first thing you did was like, sure, here's the evidence? But instead, she's hiding it back. And instead, now we see that her friends, her allies are calling people, the witnesses she named, saying, can you change your story? People, the other side's using your story to show that this may not have happened. So it's incredibly shady. And if you ought to be ashamed of yourself if you're someone who was like, oh, this guy's definitely guilty, he should withdraw. Because now the holes are starting to come further and further. Just like with the Swetnick story. Oh, Kavanaugh's a gang rapist. And then as the days go on, it's like, wow, we find out that this woman's lied about things like this, accused people before. Her herself was accused of sexual aggression towards people. Her story's changed from interview to interview. Now she didn't see Kavanaugh gang raping people or didn't see him spike the punch, right? But when these stories came out, there were so many people that were like, oh, that's it. These are credible accusations. Kavanaugh needs to withdraw. Now we're starting to see the holes come over and over. Yet that won't stop Hollywood. That won't stop all these protesters. It won't stop the mainstream media, right, from pushing this narrative. They're not reporting this. So this is a huge story. If it's true that Keyser, who is Ford's friend, once more it's worth saying, is saying, not only do I not remember this party, not only do I not remember ever hanging out with Brett Kavanaugh with or without Dr. Ford, but now people in Ford's camp are calling me, asking me to change my testimony. That's devastating. Keep in mind, there is no evidence, no corroboration whatsoever for Ford's story. All she has to go on is her credibility. And if her people are calling the witnesses, telling them to lie or change their story, that's it. She has no credibility. So it's definitely a story worth watching. We'll see how it develops the rest of the day. Have a good one.